こんにちほほほジャパニーズアモのミサです。Hey guys, Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas! Today I'm going to teach you the differences between the verbs あげる which means to give and くれる which also means to give and もらう which means to receive. When we want to say I give someone something, we would use the verb あげる あげる So for example, I will give chocolate to my friend. I would say 友達にチョコをあげる友達にチョコをあげる So as usual, we would omit the subject I 私は If you say 私は友達にチョコをあげるwhen it's obvious that the listener knows that I'm talking about myself, it can be a bit annoying, right? It's like, listen to me! I'm going to give chocolate to my friend. Obviously, you want to put 私は if you're changing the subject or topic. So you were talking about what John will give, and now I'm going to talk about myself. Like, as for me, I will give my friend chocolate. Then yeah, you add 私は But if somebody asks me, what will you give Tomoko? I would say チョコをあげる I'll give chocolate. So in this context, I don't even have to say ともこにチョコをあげる because the listener obviously knows who I'm giving it to. So I don't have to say I'll give Tomoko chocolate. Unless the question was like, what will you give Tomoko and Sayaka? Right? So there are two people. Then I would say ともこにチョコをあげてさやかにお花をあげる So I would say to Tomoko I will give chocolate and to Sayaka I will give flowers ともこにチョコをあげて So we put the verb あげる in the te form to connect with the next part さやかにお花をあげる So at the beginning I said あげる and くれる both mean to give, right? So you might be thinking, can we use the verb くれる in this sentence? I will give chocolate to Tomoko. The answer is you cannot. Because depending on who is giving and to whom is giving, we use different verbs. So whenever the subject is I and you're giving it to someone else, doesn't matter who, it can be you or someone, you always use あげる So whenever the sentence starts with I give, I will give, I gave, I want to give, you use あげる So when you want to say I gave a present to my friend, we want to again omit the 私 and then start with to my friend. So you say 友達に and then what you're giving, the object, プレゼントを and then the past tense of the verb あげる which is あげた informally and あげました formally. So informally it would look like 友達にプレゼントをあげた and formally 友達にプレゼントをあげました By the way, remember that you always have to use the ni particle to indicate who you're giving it to when you use the verb あげる Like in English, you can say I gave my friend a present or I gave a present to my friend. Like there are two patterns. In Japanese, there isn't. You can actually change the word order and say プレゼントを友達にあげるbut it's more common to say 友達にプレゼントをあげる anyway. And you'd still use the ni particle to show who you're giving it to, even if you swap the order. So now you know that あげる has to be used when the subject is I, but also use あげる when somebody gives something to somebody else. So you might be like, yeah, duh. But no, the thing is, you can't ever use the verb あげるwhen somebody is giving it to me. So if the subject is you or he or she or they, if any of them is giving it to me, we don't use あげる. So if the sentence is like you gave me or he gave me, we don't use あげる. We actually use くれる. I'm going to talk about くれる in a minute. First, when you want to say the person A gave something to someone B, we'd say person A は person B に something をあげる. So let's say that Pikachu gave Kirby ketchup because Pikachu thinks ketchup is the best thing in the world, right? Ketchup は世界で一番いいプレゼント. For that sentence, we want to say ピカチュウは and to Kirby, right? カービーに and then ケチャップ is how we say ketchup. So ケチャップをあげた informally and あげました formally. ピカチュウはカービーにケチャップをあげた or ピカチュウはカービィにケチャップをあげました. So in this sentence, we can only use the verb あげる because the speaker is still me, right? But I'm talking about Pikachu giving it to somebody else. I'm not Kirby, so I can't use the verb くれる. I can only say あげる. ピカチュウはカービィにケチャップをあげた. As long as I or someone is giving it to somebody else, we'd still use あげる, right? So if the subject is 私, but still giving it to someone else, we say あげる. So 私は or without 私はピカチュウにケチャップをあげた. So you'd still use the verb あげる when you want to ask what will you give your family for Christmas. You'd still say クリスマスは家族に何をあげる? クリスマスは家族に何をあげる? Or formally, あげますか? So, speaking of Christmas, what will you give your family? Or if you want to say, who will you give that present to? You can say, 誰にそのプレゼントをあげる? 誰にそのプレゼントをあげる? So as long as the subject is giving something to somebody else, never me, you use あげる. But when somebody gives something to me, we would use くれる. Since the verb くれる is used for someone giving something to me, again we don't put 私に. So technically, you could say somebody が私にくれました, but it's not necessary. It sounds like he didn't give it to you, he gave it to me. Like you put more emphasis on the fact that that person gave it to me. Santa Claus gave me new shoes and my sister is like, "Aw, this is not fair. I'm jealous. Can I wear them?" I'll be like, 私にくれたの. He gave it to me. Not you, sister. So in that kind of context, yeah, sure, add 私に. Anyway, if I just want to make the sentence, Santa Claus gave me shoes, I would say, サンタさんが靴をくれました. サンタさんが靴をくれました. So notice that in this sentence, when we use the verb くれる, the subject is not I. The subject is Santa Claus, Santa san. And 私に to me is omitted, right? So when we use the verb くれる, the emphasis in that sentence is who gave it to me. So this fact will be very important later when I explain the verb もらう, to receive. So whenever somebody asks who gave it to you, or if I'm grateful and I want to tell people who gave it to me, who was nice enough to give it to me, we would say くれる. That's the reason why we use the が particle most of the time, because the が particle puts emphasis on who does something, right? I've already explained the differences between トムは窓を割りました and トムが窓を割りました. If we say トムは窓を割りました, we use the は particle. It just describes what he did, for example, that day. It sounds like an answer to the question, what did Tom do? Whilst if you say トムが窓を割りました, then it sounds like Tom is the one who broke the window, in case you didn't know. Or, it sounds like somebody asked me, who broke the window? I'd be like, トムが窓を割りました. It was Tom. So when we want to put emphasis on who was in charge, who did that thing, we'd use the が particle, right? So if we say サンタさんがプレゼントをくれました, it's like Santa Claus is the one who gave me the present, and like I really want to thank Santa-san. So whenever you want to say somebody gave me something, you'd use the verb くれる. Remember, we can't use あげる when somebody gives me something, right? So Pikachu gave me ketchup. We would say ピカチュウがケチャップをくれました. Or ピカチュウがケチャップをくれた. So I said that we use the が particle most of the time. But there is a situation where you'd say somebody は something をくれました. If I say ピカチュウはケチャップをくれました. Again, it sounds like that I was talking about somebody else before. So before I say ピカチュウはケチャップをくれました, maybe I said カービィがぬいぐるみをくれました. カービィがぬいぐるみをくれました. Kirby gave me a stuffed animal or plushie. And now I want to talk about Pikachu. So I'm changing the topic or the subject. So I would say ピカチュウは, and as for Pikachu, ピカチュウはケチャップをくれました. So, if you get presents from a few people, you will want to say, this person gave me this, this person gave me this, this person gave me this. It would sound a bit weird if you keep saying, like, ジェフがキーボードをくれた, アマンダが香水をくれた, ダニエルがネックレスをくれた. It would sound weird. In this situation, I would actually just use the は particle for everyone. ジェフはキーボードをくれた, アマンダは香水をくれた, ダニエルはネックレスをくれた. Or I would actually use the te form, like ジェフはキーボードをくれて, アマンダは香水をくれて, ダニエルはネックレスをくれた. In that situation, use the は particle. So earlier we had a sentence, カービィはピカチュウにケチャップをあげた or あげました. Kirby gave Pikachu ketchup. So if I ask Kirby, what did you give Pikachu, Kirby? Kirby would tell me, ピカチュウにケチャップをあげた. ピカチュウにケチャップをあげました. Again, Kirby wouldn't say 私はピカチュウに because it's obvious to me that Kirby is talking about herself because I asked what did you give. Anyway, Pikachu would tell me カービィがケチャップをくれた. カービィがケチャップをくれた. That sentence sounds like I didn't even ask, but Pikachu came up to me, hey listen, Kirby gave me ketchup, right? But if I ask Pikachu first, like, what did Kirby give you? Pikachu would tell me, ケチャップをくれた. ケチャップをくれた. Pikachu would omit the subject カービィが because I already asked who gave it to you. So Pikachu doesn't have to repeat who gave it to Pikachu. So, ケチャップをくれた. He or she gave me ketchup. So, if Pikachu tells me ケチャップをくれた and I want to talk about it more, my first comment would be like, oh wow, Kirby gave you ketchup. In this sentence, I wouldn't actually say カービーはケチャップをあげた. This actually would sound odd. I would actually say カービーがケチャップをくれた or くれたの to make it sound more natural. We'd use the no ending particle to show that you're curious about it and stuff. カービーがケチャップをくれたの. So, this might be weird to you because I told you that we only use the verb くれる when we mean somebody gives me something. I wasn't the one who got the ketchup. Pikachu was the one who got the ketchup. But I still would say カービーがケチャップをくれたの. This is another situation we would use くれる. When you're talking to your close friends or family, you often use くれる to make it sound like I'm talking from my family or my friend's perspective, or I say it to make it sound like I'm happy for my family or my friend. This would be a bit different when we talk to a stranger or at work. We would actually use the verb もらう to receive, which I'm going to explain. So we would say カービーさんにケチャップをもらったんですね. Oh wow, you received ketchup from Kirby. カービーさんにケチャップをもらったんですね. This would be the formal way. Anyway, either way, even if you speak formally or informally, we wouldn't use the verb あげる. Like we wouldn't say カービーはケチャップをあげたんですね. So really, when you are talking to someone and you want to say, oh, that person gave you this, you'd actually use the verb くれる or もらう, not あげる. We use あげる when we are observing the situation from outside, like Kirby gave Pikachu ketchup. I would say カービーはピカチュウにケチャップをあげました. Or when we gossip, did you hear Yuto gave Haruka a diamond? We'd say ユウトがはるかにダイヤモンドをあげたって。ユウトがはるかにダイヤモンドをあげたって。And I'm speaking to neither Yuto or Haruka. I'm talking to Pikachu about it. I don't have to speak from their perspective, right? I would say, oh, they did this. Whilst I'm talking to Pikachu, and you will say, oh, Kirby gave you this. So basically in English, when you say somebody gave you something, we still use くれる. So あげる is really for somebody gives something to somebody else. So for that same reason, if I want to ask Pikachu, who gave you that ketchup? I wouldn't use the verb あげる because gave you in this sentence wouldn't work with あげる because again it's who gave you, right? So we wouldn't say 誰がケチャップをあげたの or あげたんですか? This no and ですか are just really to show that you're curious about it and you want to know. So they are used often. You can also just say 誰がケチャップをあげた or 誰がケチャップをあげましたか? This sentence 誰がケチャップをあげたの or just あげた would sound like who gave person A ketchup. So it doesn't sound like I'm talking to Pikachu like who gave you that ketchup. We're still talking about Haruka and Pikachu only said like Haruka got diamond. And I was like, who gave Haruka diamond? I would say 誰がはるかにダイヤモンドをあげたの? 誰がはるかにダイヤモンドをあげたの? So that's the situation I would use あげる. If I'm talking to Pikachu, who gave you that ketchup? I would say 誰がケチャップをくれたの? So again, we would use the verb くれる. Or I can also say 誰にケチャップをもらいましたか? So I'm going to explain this verb もらう in a minute. Then that means who did you receive that ketchup from? And then to answer that question, Pikachu would say カービィがケチャップをくれた。カービィがケチャップをくれました。And now let's talk about もらう。So もらう literally means to receive, to get. But it always means to receive or to get something, usually as a gift. So もらう is often translated as to get as well, because in English it sounds more natural to say I got something than I received something, especially in the informal speech. But in English, to get can mean quite a few things. If I say I got a new dress, it could mean I bought a new dress for myself. But もらう is different from the verb 買う to buy. Like if I bought it, I would say ドレスを買った or ドレスを買いました。But if I got it as a gift, I would always use the verb もらう。So ドレスをもらった or ドレスをもらいました。It means I received or I got as a gift. So when you want to say I got something, just like I said, you can say something をもらう, right, to get something. The subject, when we use the verb もらう, it's the person who receives. So unlike くれる or あげる, もらう has no limitation. Like you can say I received, like 私は something をもらいました or ともこは something をもらいました or あなたは something をもらいました So it doesn't matter who received that thing. You can put any subject with the verb もらう But first, let's talk about when I receive something. So again, we usually omit the 私は part. Like we don't really say 私は something をもらいました But it's important to know that the subject is 私は not someone who is giving it to me. So it puts emphasis on who got the present rather than who gave it to me. So when I want to say who gave it to me, I always stick with the verb くれる。お父さんが車をくれた。And that means my dad gave me a car. But if I say お父さんに車をもらった then the fact that I got a car is more important than the fact that my dad gave me. So it might sound like that speaker is selfish, but you know, there are situations where you just use もらった. Like somebody asked, what did you get for Christmas? And that person is not really interested in who gave me stuff. Then I would just use the verb もらう because that person might not know all the people that I'm going to list. Like ダニエルがネックレスをくれました. But that person could be like, Daniel, who? Like ダニエル? 誰? So I would just say ネックレスをもらった or ネックレスをもらいました. And of course I could add the information ダニエルにネックレスをもらった. But here it doesn't really focus on who gave it to me anyway. So maybe that person will be like, okay. Or if I'm not sure if that person remembers who Daniel is, for example, then I can still add ダニエルにプレゼントをもらった. But if a YouTuber makes the video, what I got for Christmas, that person would say クリスマスにもらったものクリスマスにもらったもの Because if we would want to use the verb くれる then we would have to mention everyone who, you know, gave me each thing. So, you know, it's a bit too much. So you just say something をもらいました Like I got this, 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 this. So I said that we'd use the verb くれる when you want to say someone gave you something when you talk to your friends and stuff. But we also use くれる if you're talking about someone giving it to your family. So for example, Mr. Tanaka gave my son a present. In this case, my son is not 私 like he's not the same person. But because he is in my family, we would use くれる. I'm talking from his perspective. You'd say 田中さんが息子にプレゼントをくれました。田中さんが息子にプレゼントをくれた。Or I can also say 息子は田中さんにプレゼントをもらいました。But then again, that would mean that the fact that my son got present is kind of more important than who gave it to him. Or my boyfriend gave my little sister chocolate. You'd again use the verb くれる and say 彼が or 彼氏が妹にチョコをくれた or 妹は彼にチョコをもらった。You could say 彼は妹にチョコをあげた but it's not as common. We'd usually say 彼が妹にチョコをくれた。So although I said that we would use the verb あげる when somebody is giving it to somebody else, or we would use the verb くれる only when the receiver is me. But these exceptions exist. So the first one was when we say someone gave you something, like I want to talk from your perspective. Then we would use the verb くれる or もらう, right? And also when we talk about my family member getting something, we'd usually use the verb くれる or もらう. But again, if we're gossiping, like Yuto gave Haruka diamond, we can only use あげる. Like Yuto はHarukaにダイヤモンドをあげた, right? And I casually said someone に something をもらいました. But some people probably thought like, wait, the に particle? Then good for you that you noticed that, because the に particle usually indicates direction and should usually be translated as to. So ダニエルにネックレスをもらいました might sound like to Daniel I received a necklace, but it just sounds odd, right? The に particle doesn't mean to here. When we use the verb もらう, we use the に particle as from. Yeah, I know it's weird, but you just have to deal with it. You just need to remember that we use the に particle. You can actually use the particle から and say ダニエルからネックレスをもらった。ダニエルからネックレスをもらいました。And it's still grammatically correct, but it's not as common. So we usually use someone に as from who when we use the verb もらう. So all the particles might be confusing, but when you use the verb あげる, usually says giver は receiver にあげる. When we use the verb くれる, you say giver が receiver に something をくれる. And when we use the verb もらう to receive, we say receiver は giver に something をもらう. So although あげる and くれる both mean to give, and it might seem like あげる and くれる are more similar, it's actually くれる and もらう are the ones that confuse a lot of learners. Because when you want to say I got something from somebody or somebody gave me something, you'd either use くれる or もらう, right? So for example, my friend gave me wine. You'd say 友達がワインをくれた or 友達がワインをくれました. So when I use くれる, it's more important for me to say who gave the wine to me, right? But if I want to say I got wine from my friend, I would say 友達にワインをもらった。お友達にワインをもらいました。Although I mentioned who gave it to me, still the main focus is what I got. But this is a good exercise to convert the くれる sentence into もらう sentence or the other way around. So let's practice a little bit. So how do you say my friend gave me a book? So please make the sentence my friend gave me a book. And also I got a book from my friend. So pause the video right now and think. Alright, are you ready? My friend gave me a book. You can say 友達が本をくれた informally and 友達が本をくれました formally. And if I want to say I got a book from my friend, I would say 友達に本をもらった informally and 友達に本をもらいました formally. Alright, what about my parents gave me money and I got money from my parents? Did you pause the video? My parents gave me money. We'd say 親がお金をくれたをくれました。If you put the word 両親, that's fine too. So 親 means parent or parents, singular or plural, whilst 両親 means both parents, mom and dad or dad and dad and mom and mom. So 両親がお金をくれた is fine too. And I got money from my parents. Again, you can either use 親 or 両親 and then にお金をもらった informally and もらいました formally. So 親にお金をもらった or 親にお金をもらいました。What about my wife gave me a watch? Pause the video. If you don't know the word for wife, I'll give you the word for wife. Either 妻 or 奥さん. So 妻 sounds more formal. You should use that word if you're speaking quite formally. But if you're talking semi-formally, like to your co-workers or to your friends when you speak informally, you'd use the word 奥さん as my wife. And 奥さん can also be used as your wife when you're talking both formally and informally. Anyway, use the word 妻 or 奥さん and for watch, like wristwatch, we say 腕時計, but you can also just say 時計, and 時計 can mean either clock or watch. So formally, 妻が時計をくれました。Informally, 奥さんが時計をくれた。Alright, now if you use the verb もらう then 妻に時計をもらいました。And informally, 奥さんに時計をもらった。So I have a question for you guys. クリスマスに on Christmas, at Christmas, クリスマスに何をもらいましたか？クリスマスに何をもらいましたか？ What did you get for Christmas? So to answer that question, you can either say someone が something をくれました if you really wanna say who gave it to you, or you just want to show appreciation that that person is nice enough to give it to you, or you can answer like someone に something をもらいました like I got something from someone, or you don't even have to tell me who gave you that. You can just say something をもらいました or something をもらった。And if you didn't get anything, I'm sorry. Maybe you were naughty and Santa didn't come for you. I'm kidding. I'm very sorry. In that case, you can say 何も もらいませんでした。I didn't receive anything. 何ももらいませんでした。or 何ももらわなかった。何ももらわなかった。If you want to be like, oh, nobody gave me anything. So instead of like, I didn't get anything, you want to say, nobody gave me anything. You can say, 誰も何もくれなかった。誰も何もくれなかった。But I hope this lesson was like a Christmas gift to you. Next time I'm going to teach you the differences between 手あげる、手くれる and 手もらう which are very important too, but you can't really learn them unless you know these verbs first. So make sure to practice them, and if you want to give me Christmas present, you can support me on Patreon. But honestly, I can't express how much I appreciate you guys. Not just, you know, supporting me on Patreon, but also always leaving the comments and sharing and, you know, giving a thumbs up. Everything is like a present to me. So thank you so much again, and I hope you had a fantastic holiday, whether you're not celebrating Christmas or not. Alright, thank you so much. じゃあまたね。バイバイ。ほほほー。